The synapse for this conversation is the attempt by the far right party, the newly elected party, to retract German citizenship, initially from immigrants with criminal records, of course. But going back in German history, the Germans have a very specific history of retaking their citizenship, perhaps starting from 1933. Would you comment on the history of the rescinding of citizenships, specifically from the Jewish population?
Look, first of all, I think the elections that were yesterday, the party that was received the highest majority and will be able to install a chancellor is the Christian Democratic Party, which is the party of Angela Merkel.
Mhm.
And it was led by Friedrich Merz. Now, the other part of it, which we shouldn't confuse the viewers, it was the election of the AfD, which is the Alternative for Deutschland, a party which has, I would say, very considered an extreme right-wing party in the German landscape, in the German Bundestag. And this Friedrich Merz, the Chancellor designate, said very clearly, this will not be part of the coalition. The AfD will not be a part of the coalition that he will lead. The only basic possibility he has of putting together a coalition will be with the Labour Party, the SPD, headed by Olaf Scholz, who probably won't stay on, which would mean that, look, the immigration issue is a tough issue. And there's no doubt that Germany's moving to the right because of it. But I don't see them, if they have to put together a coalition with the Labour Party, they will have to also temper these calls to strip people of their citizenship. And in my opinion, they would be very careful not to go anywhere near taking away the citizenship of German citizens of Jewish origin. That's the bottom line. I think, I would be very cautious and wait and see how this is going to turn out. But I do not think that they will uh, go for this will affect the population of Jews living in Germany.
We are finding a move to the right in so many places. Certainly in America, there's been a move to the right. In Hungary, in Serbia, there is a right-wing government, although I am aware that there are current protests against that government.
Mhm.
Um, but is this move to the right indicative of, let us say, 10 years from now? Could that cycle continue, or could that direction rather continue?
It could continue, but again, I'd say, look, in European terms, and compared to other countries like Poland and Hungary, and even the right wing in France, I'd say, CDU is a Christian, again, it's the Christian Democratic Party, the party of Angela Merkel. And while I would expect Friedrich Merz to be a bit more to the right than Angela Merkel, I still would consider him a more traditional conservative and not an extreme, not of the extreme right wing.
So,
So,
would you say that so many Israelis who have German heritage, the
mhm,
children of survivors, so many of whom have double citizenship, partially for practical reasons, for business reasons, for travel reasons, would
mhm.
you say that there is any concern for these who have the double citizenship?
I personally, I cannot see the German government, the government I know, and the government that I worked in Germany for 5 years. They appointed a commissioner against anti-Semitism and also for the encouragement of Jewish life in Germany. One should not forget the second part of the title. They are very interested in strengthening the Jewish community, and I include this with Friedrich Merz. I would see the CDU as being a very positive. First of all, he's positive towards Israel, His party's been very positive both to Israel and the Jewish people as a whole, and also to the German Jewish citizens that still alive that live in Germany, along with the Israeli citizens who've also been living there. I cannot see them doing something that will impact the life of the Jewish community. Again, I think there will be a lot of more concern of the fact that the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, led by Alice Weidel, will have received 20% of the vote, which is a vote of about 10 million Germans. And you know, when I was ambassador in Germany, we had absolutely no contact with the AfD, not at the federal level or the state level. I mean, Alice Weidel is the granddaughter of a judge in the Nazi era who was appointed personally by Hitler. And I don't, you know, some Germans even just call them a neo-Nazi party. I would just say that at the very least they're a party with a very fond nostalgia for the Nazi era, and I think that is what one should be concerned about. And again, Friedrich Merz has said very clearly there is a firewall. They will not set up a coalition with the AfD, and they will not want to be in coordination and cooperation with that party, which I think is a very important statement, which should also resonate very firmly with the Jewish community there.
Let's go to your point about the vote being some 20% of the German population.
Mhm.
How does that bode for the Jewish community in Germany, despite the government admonitions of continuing Jewish life, encouraging Jewish life? What does a 20% neo-Nazi vote say?
Look, first of all, it comes at a time where I'd say the German people as a whole are going through a number of dilemmas. A strategic dilemma because of the war in Ukraine and their very strong support for the Ukrainian government. And now the rise of President Trump, who's come out very much against Ukraine and has said negative noises about Europe. Have been there. There've also been meetings between Elon Musk and the head of the AfD, and also the Vice President Vance was recently in the Munich Security Conference and refused to meet with the Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, but met with the head of the AfD. So these sort of signals, first of all, have created a great deal of difficulty in terms of how the German people we're obviously concerned about Russia, what they've done in Ukraine, the new threat to Europe. When I was working in Germany between 17 and 22, the years 2022, Germany was not in a sense of a war breaking out in the German continent, and then it happened, and Russia attacked Ukraine, and obviously it changed their whole national security. So number one, there's, let's say, a strategic dilemma here between Russia, the threat of Russia, and also their traditional reliance on America as a very major ally. Second of all, the economy has been also through a lot of strains lately. There's a lot of concern. There's going to be a dilemma between increased government spending, which is limited by the law. They can't have deficit spending over a certain amount. And on the other hand, they have to finance and support Ukraine militarily, but they also have social security of their own people and social welfare that they want to invest in. So there'll be a dilemma now, and in terms of how do you keep your national security defensive measures up vis-a-vis Ukraine, and how do you sort of restart your economy? And third of all is the issue of the immigration, on which the AfD has become very strong. And that is one of the reasons why they got 20%, is because people are very concerned about the immigration, the number of, let's say, Muslims coming into Germany, and also in terms of how you've seen recently certain attacks, terrorist attacks within Germany, carried out by Muslim immigrants. And this has also caused a great deal of concern. And so you have and I'm just talking about three major tensions, but a place like Germany, obviously, it's a leader of Europe, and Europe in general is going through many challenges at this point, challenges that they thought it would never have to face again.
I would ask you to segue to the challenge that Israel has put itself in by siding with the Russian United States Russian vote in this recent vote, and how Germany, a major supplier of arms to Israel, not only to Ukraine, but also an ally of Israel, how is Germany, how is Europe taking in this new development?
Well, frankly, look, as you know, I've been retired from the Foreign Service for the last 2 years, and I would not have taken such a decision and voted, against this resolution. But I don't think it's appropriate that we should have done, but we did. And I think it will be of concern to countries like Germany. But again, there's a government in Israel which is looking very strongly towards Washington and wants to remain highly coordinated with Washington. But it should, in my opinion, have certain limitations. And I think I would have. I'm pretty concerned about this type of decision, and I would not have gone in that direction personally.
How can that decision be ameliorated, and how can the European allies feel sure or be reassured about Israel's position vis-a-vis this relationship between allies?
Well, so far, I think, look, people understand that Israel is in a very difficult and complicated position. Russia is not just a sort of a faraway problem from our point of view. And this may have changed recently with the fall of the Assad regime, where Russia was very firmly placed. And over the last years, we've tried to keep our relations with Russia and deconflict them from becoming into a direct clash. And I think there was a great deal of understanding regarding what Israel was trying to do. It was trying to sort of deconflict its relationship with Russia, but also show an element of support for Ukraine, given the fact that, however you look at this, Ukraine did not attack Russia, but rather it was the other way around. And I think that we were, up till now, our position had been understood. And this vote in the UN, look, to be honest, votes in the UN are not the most important things in the world. They don't really change the realities on the ground. But, I think it doesn't send the right message. And I think Israel should have stayed in the same position it was prior to this vote.
Where do you think the amelioration, to use the term again, can come? How does Israel regain the confidence of its allies in Europe?
Look, first of all, I think the most, I mean, maybe because I was ambassador to Germany, but I think Germany is the critical partner we have in Europe. It's the most important strategic ally that we have. We have very profound and deep relations between our security establishments. One of the first things I did was sign a contract for 3 new submarines with Germany. During that time, we received 4 corvette boats for our Navy. We leased UAVs to Germany for their peacekeeping forces. And also, don't forget, the Germans are buying the Arrow 3 missile defense program. And that's not all, but we also had a very close and intimate security and intelligence exchange with Germany. So first of all, we're very close with Germany, and we must maintain that relationship.
Mhm.
And I think from that point of view, Friedrich Merz will be a very good partner to make that relationship, keep it strong, and even enhance it. And I think through that, we can reach out to the rest of Europe. But we have to, Europe is becoming a lot more complicated with, as you mentioned before, the rise of far right-wing parties in other countries. Now, Germany is a particular issue because far right extreme sort of hooks up with the Nazi past, which is very sensitive, but it's also very sensitive for the Germans themselves. And if Friedrich Merz is not going to have any coalition with them, then I think it would be perfectly appropriate that Israel would have absolutely still no contact with the AfD. So I think that to answer your question, that is, first of all, we have to work on our relationship with Germany. Though I think Friedrich Merz will be positive towards Israel, I don't see Germany abandoning the idea of a two-state solution as a goal between Israel and the Palestinians. And so, I think, we'll take it bit by bit, but let's not forget, it's going to take a bit of time for the coalition. First of all, a new coalition has to be set up. And that could take a bit of time because a lot of the dilemmas within Germany now between the conservatives and the Labour, they'll need a lot of compromises, and that could take time to resolve.
Ambassador, I know that your portfolio in the last assignment focused on Germany, but as you mentioned, you are 2 years out of the official ranking. As an Israeli, as a well-schooled and fine observer of current Israeli politics, especially in the situation of the 63 remaining hostages, would you comment just in your position as former ambassador and as Israeli citizen?
My position is very crystal clear. We need to get all of our hostages, whether alive or dead, back to Israel. This war must end, and it must end as soon as possible. I don't want another hostage deal of phases, one after another. I think the whole deal should be one tranche of exchange of hostages. And as I said, all of them alive and those that are not yet living to give their families, the living ones to give their families their loved ones back, and to also give the other families of the deceased, some closure. This has been a very profound traumatic experience for Israel today. We buried Oded Lifshitz, and I'd say the whole country kind of held its breath. Tomorrow, I can't even begin to imagine the amount of tears that are going to be flowing tomorrow when we bury Shiri, Bibas, and Kfir and Ariel, those beautiful kids. It's it's something, it's a trauma we have to get behind. We need to get this off our agenda. And we need to get this agenda of hostages, totally back to their families where they belong. And otherwise, then we can start, the road to recovery. This has been a traumatic 16 months for all of us, and we've lost something in the region of 1,840 citizens and soldiers. This has been a massive blow to us. And now, frankly, after all this time, with all this suffering, Israel is in a stronger position. Hamas is weakened very seriously. The Hezbollah has been seriously weakened. Assad has fallen, and there could be a different horizon in Syria. The Iranians attacked us twice with massive missile attacks, and that was shown to be a very much of a display of weakness because 99% of the missiles were intercepted. So Israel's strategic position after the fall of the 7th of October has actually increased and become much stronger. And it's at this time that we need to adopt an important and a viable political horizon, in my opinion, with the Palestinians. We need to come out of this crisis with the beginnings of a solution to the Palestinian issue.
On that line, will the conversation coming from Washington be of positive or negative value?
Well, look, First of all, as you know, let's say Trump has done two things. First of all, he's put a lot of pressure on getting the hostage exchange happening, which I'm very much, I'm not one of his fans, but I very much congratulate him on pressing this through. And I would hope that he would insist that all the hostages have to come home and the war to end. So that's number one. Number two, he also came up with this idea of transferring around 1.5 million Palestinians from Gaza. Now, I think, frankly, this is not a realistic possibility by any means. But what has happened as a result of that is that the Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, have been considering more realistic solutions, and also including Jordan as well. And I would hope that, with this new improved strategic position that Israel is in, we could consolidate our peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan, and hopefully could look at a political horizon with the Palestinians that could bring in Saudi Arabia. And if we can bring in Saudi Arabia, I do not exclude the possibility of being able to encourage Syria to come in this direction. And that could also have a very profound impact on Lebanon. So while we're still in the trauma of war, we still need to look at the possible opportunities there are ahead of us. And I would hope that President Trump would actually see that adopt not this idea of Gaza and transporting is, in my view, is not the way forward. The way forward is to have an agreed and credible pathway to a political horizon, such as maybe the two-state solution, a confederation, anything. But we cannot come out of this crisis without a viable solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And that could bring us a tremendous change in the regional architecture of the Middle East.
Would you give us a closing comment on where you hope Hatikva will be for Israel in a year from now and 5 years from now?
Well, I hope that they would, maybe listen to these thoughts that, we have done, we've defended ourselves, we've defended our people. We need to go another step forward and not only think about what can be done militarily, but what we can do politically, how we can reinforce our treaties of peace with Jordan and Egypt, how we can extend them to include Saudi Arabia, and also expand our relations with other Arab countries in the area. This, to me, would be the ultimate victory against Hamas. Don't forget, Hamas did not go to war on October 7th just to kill Israelis. They wanted to kill any possibility of greater normalization, peace between Israel and its neighbors. That's why I say the agenda of peace would be the greatest victory that we could achieve.
Ambassador, we thank you. May Samra in Mexico City, Maxine Dovere in New York, and you in Jerusalem. You've been most gracious, and your words are so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you.